That guy
Okay.
that is going to call me Ore as his professor, if he was back at home, he wouldn't dare to do that.
But do you-
So why is he doing it?
Now, I'm gonna ask. This is where I'm now going. I think we're going to be having a lot of arguments now. But
Why is he doing it?
Now, I'm gonna tell you something. Do you know that a lot of people are doing things out of compulsion, not because they really want to do it? So the moment so this is the problem, yeah. Now I feel most of the time this comes down to parenting as well, or guidance as well. But the thing is, I understand that we need to follow principles because we are structured, or we are molded by principles, values, and virtue. Do you understand? I totally agree, because when there are no principles, we're just living in the hairs, like without, in regards to nothing. However, I do feel that there are many things, just like what you're saying, that people would often do without, understanding why they're doing it, but because of fear. They're doing it out of fear, not because they not because they really understand the reason why they shouldn't do it. No, I'm being honest. There are people who are doing these particular things not because they understand why, not because they know the benefit, the pros and cons, but they're doing it out of fear. So when they get out of their let's say their confines or their comfort zone, they begin to. It's not rebellion. But then it's now they becoming to want to become their true self, what they would have wanted to do freely before. But you know that people could as well do that, even if they...
Let me counter you. You. No, I need to counter. I need to counter you.
Okay.
I do not believe
that
majority of the people from a culture, except what is being required of them, is crazy.
No, I didn't say majority. I said some people.
Wait, I know. Okay. But majority, I know what you said, but majority of people, let's just assume, calling people by their title to show respect, like someone who has gone all the way to get a PhD. You're going to call him a doctor, something. I mean, it shows respect. It's, it puts the title, it lets you realize this person is not just this man, he has this achievement. He's an engineer, he's CEO, is this. You need to put the title, it reminds people of the respect, right? Good. Now, I don't think we came from that kind of society, that culture. I think majority of the people coming is that nobody will have been like, I don't want to call him professor, I just want to call him his name. I don't think anybody came up with that mindset. We grew up into it. It is normal for us. It is what we know.
I grew up with it, but I was critical of some of those things.
Okay, I'm talking about this particular one. Okay. This particular one of calling title. Not really, right? But I know some people, I'm not saying 100%, definitely some people, but majority agree with it. Majority think it's okay. I'm not saying it is okay. This is not about whether it's okay or not. But this is what you grew up in. This is what you believe is right. Okay? Like you said, you gave example at the beginning of your teacher telling you to call him by his name. It felt weird because it was different from the norm. So I don't think anybody would just come and then go and be like, oh, I want to start doing this. This is what I've wanted to do, when you never knew such a thing existed. So it can't just come from the blues. You are copying another person's culture. I'm not saying any culture is bad. My culture is not better than yours. Yours is not better than mine. There are two different things. But why is it that when you left to a culture where they just call the person by the name and you feel it is better, then you want to incorporate that into yourself and start judgmentalizing yours?
So this is what I'm saying. Now, I understand the place of people who, all of us, but this is okay. Let's look at let's look at it before you reply.
Before you reply, because you're saying like that guy. Why would he decide to call me Ore and not Mr. Ore?
Okay.
Why? Him calling me Ore, my name is my name.
Yeah.
As long as your attitude is and your character towards me is okay. You say Mr. Ore doesn't. Some people can't. You've not seen people be like, excuse me, sir, you're stupid. And they would abuse you with the respect in the title. Right. So the title, for me, it's not like, oh, it's something big. But you are coming from a place where it's Mr. Ore. And then you come here like, Ore, why? What made you change? Why do you think calling me Ore now is better than calling me Mr. Ore?
Times are changing.
What is the time? Times are changing. It's not time. This is not a matter of time.
Times are changing.
No.
Times are changing.
No, this is culture.
Times are changing. But culture has got to change as well.
culture has got to change to another person's culture.
No.
Nothing is new. But that's the thing. That is the thing.
Wait.
Nothing is new.
I'm not saying culture has to change to other people's culture. But I'm just saying culture has to be refined.
To what?
To what fits the particular locality where it's been originating from or where it's been adopted.
What? Nothing is new under the sun. If I'm not doing A, I'm doing B. B is something else from another place, from another ideology.
Things are new under the sun.
Nothing is new.
Metaverse is new under the sun.
Nothing is new. It's just like nothing is new under the sun. It's just like saying, look, eating with hand, eating with fork, eating with spoon, eating with fork and knife, eating with chopsticks. What other way do you want to eat with? With plate, with bottle, I mean, like, look now. Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but
fine.
Let's assume these are all the methods of eating, and then we come from a culture of using hand, and later we're like, no, things have changed. We should start using fork and knife. That's adopting someone else's culture. Why is fork and knife better than hand?
Okay.
But what makes it better?
Okay.
What makes using the chopstick better? What makes using spoon better? What makes using hand better?
Now,
what makes anything better?
This is what I'm going to say. Everything comes down to the reason why something is adopted. You know, that's why I told you it's always important for us to be critical. Even if you're adopting any other person's values or culture, it's necessary to question it or to know the reason. So, you know, that's why, like we say, it's not reasonable to just follow things blindly. Know the reason why you're doing something or know the benefits of some things we're doing. Do you get what I'm saying? So, and the reason why I'm saying this is also because those things will happen. You know, but having a better knowledge of these things, because, you know, people change when we get more knowledge, when we get more exposed, when we get more information. So I've always realized that there are certain things that help us to grow in life. It's all about information, knowledge, exposure. And, you know, the more people get exposed, the tendency of adopting other things.
True.
Now, which is what I'm saying, culture, even coming from a place, I do also believe this, which I feel you might disagree, that even with the fact of we coming from a particular locality, I don't necessarily have to take up that culture.
True.
As much as it would be wonderful and fun for you to portray that culture, but I do think it's not compulsory for you to take up that culture.
True, but it is expected, but you don't have to.
That's what I'm saying.
The expectation is there.
That's what I'm saying. That expectation is there, but that expectation should not come from a place of compulsion.
True.
That's one way. That's one. Number two side to it is, you know, when we talk about this cultural thing, I always feel that people should be free to pick whatever suits them. Now, because this is the reason why I'm saying this. I feel that culture has its way of capping us up. I'm being honest. Because I've seen this happen to me, that I had to start working on myself, growing beyond my confines, you know, breaking out of all this. Because to me, some of the time I call them generational patterns or generational curses, because there are certain things we believe. But I realized that these things often even affect us when it comes to dealing with people, like even making friends, believe me, even communicating with people. You know, that's why I feel like it's important that we don't necessarily have to adopt other people's culture. But if we see something good from other people's culture,
we can learn.
We can learn from
Definitely.
it. But don't forget, we're not just learning. We would also adopt them.
Definitely.
But it doesn't now mean we're trashing off some other people's culture, like you said. You know, even if I'm going to adopt another person's culture, I would not necessarily trash out my culture. However, I can put out the differences. Like, okay, ever since I started adopting this new culture, this is how it has helped me. It doesn't necessarily, you know, one thing Sadhguru, you know, would always say is people are not necessarily good or bad. People are good. What makes a person good or bad is the perception of other different people. The person you are going to see good, I'll see the person as being bad. It's all about my own perception of something. Which is why it now comes to an individual.
But that's
pick
the
what
problem.
Suits you. Don't force it on people.
But that's the problem.
Pick what works for you. If you feel like you don't want to take on someone's culture, don't take it. Pick what you want.
But it's a problem in the sense that I agree with you, but there's a thin line that separates you and the rest of the people, in the sense that I say, I feel this works for me, this is good, but I'm relating with other people from my culture. They don't have that same understanding that I have.
I have a question for you.
Wait. Before
I have a question for you.
No, before you say
I have a question for you.
Yes.
You keep talking about this particular culture. I know you love this African culture.
No, it's not about loving it.
Wait.
Me, I'm just a simple guy like that.
You love that culture well, yeah?
I don't love it, I don't hate it. I'm just there.
You are going to work in a company. and the culture in that company totally antagonizes your own culture that you believe in, what would you do? Or let's say, not necessarily antagonize, let's not use antagonize, but let's say it's on the opposite radar. It's on the opposite side of the spectrum in comparison with your own culture.
It can be on the opposite side in all aspects. Probably in one or two aspects.
Let's say in the germane ones, yeah? It's on the opposite spectrum. What would you do?
Well, I am understanding. If I really want that job, then I would abide.
Because you want the job, you're going to abide by that culture.
I'm abiding while I'm in the workforce. By the time I leave, I'm doing myself now.
No, you should use your culture from where you are and use it in the culture.
No, I never said. Didn't I say that if you go to a new place, you abide by their culture? I'm not saying you shouldn't abide by their culture.
But you're abiding. That's what I'm saying.
No, that you're not getting my point. My point is, see.
But that's what I'm saying. We can abide cultures, yeah.
You have to. Exactly. You go to a new place. You have to. Why won't you respect their culture? You would portray your culture to the point where you are not disrespectful to the others. As long as what you are doing is not disrespectful to the culture of that environment and the culture of every other single individual, every other single individual, and it's not disrespectful to every other single individual, then it's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't portray other cultures, you shouldn't know other cultures, you shouldn't respect other cultures. You can even learn. I agree with you about learning from other cultures. But you need to understand that I have learned from this culture. I believe this is better. It still boils down to me. That person in my culture that I am relating with, that we've grown up with a certain belief, does he think that what I think is better? And should my judgment of it being better affect how I treat him?
Okay.
So it's not just about me. In my dealings, let's assume our culture is...
What about if you find someone from your original culture in that same organization?
But okay, wait. Before I'm not even talking about the organization yet. Let's just assume our culture is drink water immediately you wake up. Let's just assume that's the culture. And you come here and you realize that these people say drink water 2 hours after you wake up, and you try it and you feel like it's better for you. It's understandable, right? If I come to your house to visit you, I am from your culture. I grew up with drink water, and I don't give you water, and I wait to that 2 hours later to give you water because I feel it's better. That's not okay. Just because I think that 2 hours is better does not mean you agree with that.
Yeah.
I am meant to give you water at that time.
Yeah.
I can introduce you to it later, and if you agree with it, then fine. If you don't, fine. But it is still imposing on my part. So the imposing goes both ways, because now I am expecting you to go with what I agree with because I agree with it, not considering whether you agree with it or not.
Okay.
He is not even expecting you to go with something new. He's expecting you to go with what you've always gone with. You can't just wake up one day and decide to change. You have to consider where you are in now.
And that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. Environment. Consider community.
True, that's what I'm saying.
Where we find ourselves.
That's what I'm saying. That imposing is conditional. In an instance where we both come from a place where you have to put that title. Let's say the title is for both younger and older, and then I'm like, I don't need. I can tell you, don't call me by title, but I would call you by title to show you respect in that culture. In our culture, it's disrespectful to you that I wouldn't do that just because I've come to another place and I see something in their culture I think is good. On what basis do I think is good? My understanding, which is limited to me, not you. Now, if you think this thing is good and is beneficial to everybody in our culture, then good. Research and write it. Post articles and let everybody read it. If it becomes a general thing, then fine, we've adapted it. If not, let it stick with yourself and any other person that agrees with that. It's the same thing as me saying I call my fellow countryman a title, and this other person says he doesn't want, and I don't. This other person says I shouldn't do this because of his culture, and I respect that. It's the same thing. I'm not imposing. I'm respecting each individual culture. Or this in their culture, you don't pray outside. Don't pray. I only pray when I'm inside. In this other place, I can pray outside, and I abide by that. It's still respecting. So now, me expecting that is the sense of familiarity that we are from the same culture. You should understand now. Like, don't you see?
Okay.
Why should I see? It still boils down to you. You see doesn't mean I see. You still have to respect me.
Sure.
So that student that is calling that other lecturer not from our culture by his name, should call me with my title. My other students that are not from my culture that call me by my name, I'm not angry at them because I understand where they're coming from. But I have expectations from you, from where we are coming from, because that is just like the way someone will hurt you from your home is different from the way an outsider will hurt you. You have expectations from them.
But this is what I'm gonna say, and I feel there are issues, like you said. These things are conditional, they are contextual, and at the same time, they are things that we need to be critical about and then ask questions. You know, these things are not absolute, even when it comes to expectations.
True.
You know, I do feel like even expectations should not come by default.
True.
And
Wait, what do you mean?
So, you know, like you talked about expectations. Expectations can come depending on the level of closeness we have with people.
It depends on what kind of expectation. Cultural expectation. Sorry for cutting.
Yeah, of course.
Cultural expectation, as long as we're from the same culture. That's like sometimes if I expect this person to do this because we're from the same culture, if they don't do it, I'm not going to say, why didn't you do it? I might be surprised.
Which is why I'm saying that we should be open-minded enough that even when things don't go the way we expect it to go, we shouldn't be too judgmental. Because
true.
Now, and you know, let's point out this things. Let's point out this things. Let's point out this things. Yeah, that as much as these things are cultural, it means that they are probably widely known, but we can still point out that there are certain people who still do not know about some of this.
Definitely,
that's one.
Definitely.
Number two is that some of these our cultural values, when we look deep into it, they are not necessarily cultural. They are just myths.
But
a lot of wait.
But do you realize that?
A lot of things they're just myths. Let's be honest.
But do you realize?
And they're superstitious beliefs.
But do you realize that when you look at that other culture, I don't want it to be like, oh, it's a culture against culture.
No, it's not. It's not culture against culture. I'm just saying that we need to be very critical about some certain
understand,
things.
but what I'm saying,
still do it respectfully.
True.
You know, adopt things as well. Be open-minded enough. Be global enough.
True.
Don't just close up yourself and feel yours is the best, yours is the only way, and nothing else matters.
You saying that if we look deep into it, we may realize that some of these things are myths. But if you look at it, almost every single culture from every single society or country has that element of myth in it. But if you are critical about everything, nothing really stands for some. For some. So in such a situation, like I can't say because I'm very critical and understanding of my own, then and I'm not so critical and understanding of that idea is there. You understand? Because the thing is, you might say it's not culture against culture, but that's the reality of it. Because if it is until I see another culture, then I want to adapt that and I expect everybody to adapt it. That's not okay. That's what, like, why don't you think this your culture is?
So my opinion is
good.
My opinion is this. Anyone can identify with whatever culture they want to adapt or identify with or associate with or let's say adopt.
True.
But my own is, even if you're going to suggest, you can suggest cultural values or little things to people, but don't impose it on them out of compulsion or out of being judgmental.
True.
Let people pick. You can give suggestions and then leave it to them to make that decision.
True.
And we shouldn't expect that everyone is going to do things the way we want to do it. You know, not everyone is necessarily good or bad. I mean, just let people make that decision on their own.
True. I don't
rub it on their faces. Do you get what I'm saying? True. Let's not rub it on their faces.
I agree with you.
You know, some of the things. I'm just very careful because speaking from a place of experience, I've learned by experience that if these things are not well balanced, it could become a stumbling block.
Definitely.
It stops us, believe me, it stops a lot of people. It becomes a generational pattern. We call it culture, but if care is not taken, it would affect a lot of people.
In what way?
So, how can I explain? Yeah, there are certain beliefs. I'm trying to look for the best one to distinguish the situations. Now, don't forget that there are cultural values and good ones. Remember back then they would tell us, don't get married from someone from this place. You know, these are cultural beliefs.
Yeah.
But the truth is, if we cap our mind to that alone, if we're not open-minded to be critical, could feel that, okay, this just, it doesn't work well, right? It would stop.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
There are some things from our culture that are evidently bad. There are some that we might think they are good, and over time we realize they are bad. True. So that's why I agree with you about being critical and understanding about the whole thing.
Let me give you an example. The old thing of the old place of, you should know this well, that when we're eating, most of the time people don't eat meat until the end. That one, people, people think it's a cultural thing.
It's not.
It's not. It's just like a myth of what people feel like. Okay, it's just a cultural suggestion. So that's why I'm saying it's necessary to be critical. And I've heard people saying that it's even better to eat the meat first before you start eating your food.
Okay, look. This point that you made now. Sorry.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It should not become a compulsion. Now,
but look, wait.
I will now give you. Let me give you.
Before you make another.
I want to give you a very funny one. Okay.
This point that you made now, or you saying some people think it's better to eat the meat first.
Yeah.
That particular ideology now, in another culture, that could be the norm, which could have stemmed from something.
What about if it is medically right? Let's say if it's scientifically or medically right.
Before we look at the sciences of it first, that might be someone's culture now, and our culture is advised to eat meat at the end. These are two different cultures that are stemming from two different things. One might be medically right, one might not be. Both might not even be medically right.
True.
No, it might not have anything to do with
medical.
Yeah. But this is the culture.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can't just. It still. It still boils down to the fact that ideology. It's different.
Oh yeah, of course, ideology is different.
So don't just say, oh, you personally growing up in this idea might not have ever believed that is right. You might have been inclined to that. You seeing that, adapting it, it's okay, but don't expect everybody to adapt to it or to agree with you on that. Except now someone has done a research and has seen that, oh, it is medically right to do this, then you do it. You see a lot of times now.
Yeah.
There are a lot of posts that, oh, it has been seen by medical whatever that it is better to do this, and people are like, oh, we used to do like this, and then people start to change.
So you get what I'm saying? That calls for culture to be refined. You get what I'm saying?
I agreed with you at the beginning about culture growing, and
culture has to grow because there are certain things we might believe in that when even from, because we begin to have more information now. We're beginning to know more now. Even when it comes to family structure, work-life balance, and all of those things, we realize that maybe some of the things we have hinged our lives on or our beliefs on from our culture would not necessarily be appropriate for us. Not necessarily good or bad, but maybe not appropriate for our dispensation, or maybe not appropriate for our present circumstance, which is why we need to keep refining, or let's say being progressive and looking for the best one that fits us. That's what I'm saying. We should just be open-minded. And the funny thing the joke is, I was having a dinner with a friend, which we're talking about it, and we got the food, we got the water, and I was like, oh, I like to drink water before I start the food. I prefer to drink water. And then for the other person was like, they have to finish eating before they even drink water. I'm like, oh, well, that's fine. It's just a wonderful dynamic. And I said it straight up. This is a wonderful dynamic, but it's okay. Just be free. Let's just be free and enjoy life. Yeah. That's all. That ends it there.
True.
You get what I'm saying?
True.
It's not going to be something. Oh, I'm the one bringing the party on, or I'm the one hosting. You have to do it my way, blah, blah, blah. We just have to be, respectful at the same time, be open-minded, and just consider different situations.
I was going to say something. I think sometimes it's very easy to make behavior seem cultural.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things we do as individuals that don't have anything to do with our culture. So sometimes it's very tricky. We might say, oh, I do this, but this is just you. We are from the same culture, but we do a lot of things differently.
Yeah.
It was not even influenced by the culture. We are brought up differently. Our brains are different.
Even siblings who are brought up in the same family still do things differently.
Yeah, that's the thing. So we need to be very careful as to where to put the boundary of culture. Now, when talking about culture and not just behavior, it's okay. I've picked things from a lot of people that I think are beneficial to be. But I'm not expecting other people from my culture to understand that. And I don't expect that they will know that I've picked. They don't know. They don't know what I've learned. They don't know how I'm thinking.
What we've gone through as well.
Yeah, so they have their expectations, and I understand that they have their expectations. And me, I'm not going to now say because I think this is better, I'm going to impose it on them and not do it. I respect them. If you want me, except it's outrightly wrong, then I would come out and talk about it. I wouldn't wait till that situation happens before I talk about it. That's what I'm saying. Don't wait till the moment. Don't wait till that man expects. Till that student shouldn't wait till I expect him to call me Mr. Ore before he talks about it. You can talk about it. That way, there's not going to be the idea of imposing. As long as that person is open-minded and he understands. If he's okay with it, fine. If not, then you guys will see what you do. But then, don't impose your new idea on them and say and then be complaining that they are imposing your culture on you. Because at the end of the day, it is still your culture.
But
you have an obligation.
No.
To an extent, you have an obligation.
Okay, because of our time.
Now look now. Just wait now.
I disagree.
One question.
Wait.
I say one question. One question. Wait. It's just like me.
I disagree that we have an obligation.
It's just like me now. Wait now.
Wait. The only thing is that
no. If I should go home, if I should go home now, and I want to greet my father. Tell me, how will I greet him? Will I greet him the cultural way or greet him how other people
Let me tell you what.
Wait now, because we have obligation to an extent. I'm not saying we have 100% obligation.
Okay, fine.
We don't have 100%, but we have an obligation. It is your culture.
Depending on the location, depending on the situation.
The way I would greet my father at home,
depending on the context, don't forget.
Obviously, context, everything. But let me give you this example of greeting my father. The way I would greet my father at home is the same way I would greet my father in any country.
Sure.
In any country.
Sure.
That's respect.
That's what I'm saying.
Even though maybe I believe that this thing is getting outdated or I'm tired.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't put that on him. I would respect him.
Exactly.
And he expects that I will greet him that way.
Sure.
Now, if I don't think it's okay, I can talk to him later on and let him understand.
Okay, sure.
Now, he might agree with it to an extent, and then we can come to a compromise within both of us.
Sure.
But if I see another of my uncle or someone that I respect and I'm expected to greet that way, I would. And he can, and from our culture, they can scold. We're groomed by the society.
Sure.
He can scold me and tell me, why didn't you do this? And I'm not going to say, this.
When it comes to
but it still depends on how he does it.
Okay, but
it still depends on how he does it. In a situation where it's so much force, that's not okay. You also need to talk.
No, what I mean, abuse is it's.
Yeah, so I think it boils down to how I express myself in such a situation and how the person expresses himself. So it doesn't seem like we are both imposing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, as long as you expect someone to do something one way, is kind of imposing to an extent.
But just be open-minded though. We all need to be open-minded because when we see people doing this thing. But then we need to wrap up the show now. We need to wrap up to this episode. It's been like a long thing for this episode.
Because I see people a lot of times. I see people and I know, especially people that I've known. I've seen them act. And then they go out and then they're acting differently, which is okay, but then the way they are now treating people from their culture is disrespectful.
Yeah. But this is,
I'm like, you can't do like this.
This is another thing. Yeah, we're gonna round up. We have to round up now. But I'm just gonna drop in now that the fact that we are doing something, we shouldn't expect other people to do it.
True.
And at the same time, it goes the reverse as well. The fact that people are doing something, they shouldn't expect us to do it. Do you get what I'm saying? And they shouldn't judge people for doing it. Just let them do whatever seems appropriate. Because sometimes we don't even know what is happening to people. Let's be honest. That's
true.
Just
Look, one last example. Sorry, I'm into this topic.
I
this.
One
last
example. Look, like charging you up, man.
Back at home, when we eat and there's meat on the table, you don't take meat until the elders have taken meat, right?
Okay.
If you've gone to a place and they're like, oh, you take meat first, and you think, okay, maybe not you take me first, or you are part of the first few people to take meat before the elders do, and you think, yeah, this is a bit better. It's not because you want to take the biggest, or you just agree more with the idea and you incorporate it. So maybe you invite people, Yeah, like rather than saying maybe because I'm the other, I would let the others take. And then you go back home or you go to a gathering where people of your that grew up with that same culture. Are you now going to expect that they will let you take it first? In that situation, you have to respect the culture and know that you don't touch that meat until all the others on the table have taken it.
Yeah, I get.
Whether you agree with it or not.
So that's what I'm saying. That's what
in that situation, you have an obligation
to that. Yeah, that's what I was also saying in the situation of, let's say, corporate organization, and if you go to a corporate organization and there is an existing corporate culture, you need to abide by that.
But look at that same situation. If there is a guest there, they might tell the guest to take first.
Yeah, there are some exceptions to
even
these
if
things.
let's say the guest even knows the culture. Let's say the guest has been living in that country for a while, and you just came back. Let's say you've even forgotten. Let's say both you and that guest forgot, and that the guest takes meat first, and you two take. They will be angry with you more than they will be angry with, because you grew up in that shit. Sorry, you grew up in that. You grew up in that culture. You have an irrespect. Why do they tell you when you leave? Remember where you are from. Don't lose yourself. Nobody's saying you shouldn't learn. Nobody's saying you shouldn't. You have to learn. People come to.
You're learning culture necessarily doesn't mean you're losing yourself.
But people, that's the thing. People tend to lose themselves.
Of course, people do. But I mean, but this is what I'm just gonna say. Yeah. Just look at the situation. You know, people have to look at the situation when it comes to all these cultural things. Look at which is best for you. Don't rubbish any other person's culture. And think about the situation you found yourself, like the environment, the community, the sites where you found yourself.
Because it's easy to rubbish your own culture. Like, it's easy because, see finish. You don't see your culture finish.
Of course.
You don't see your culture finish. So, when you get new knowledge, you're like, even this thing said, it's not like you willingly want to trash your culture, but there is that tendency to be like, this thing I've been doing, I've been saying it before, this is not okay.
Yeah.
So when that person from your culture come and expects you to do that thing, you're just flinging it off. That is losing yourself.
Yeah.
That is losing yourself. Losing yourself is, I've learned something new, I've adapted something new from another culture, which is good. I've applied it to my life, and then boom, I just expect my culture go to the side, and I expect every other person to, that's it, from my culture to understand. That is losing yourself. If I understand, I've learned a lot of things from a lot of cultures, but I don't go to my fellow countrymen and expect them to act like I do. I respect them in our culture. I respect the Chinese man in his culture. I respect the French man in his culture. I respect wherever you come from. I respect you in your culture. Wherever I am, I try and respect the place. So the thing is, it's easy to lose yourself. Don't lose yourself. Learn as much as you want. We all learn from each other. Nothing is new on us, so we learn from each other. People learn from me. I learn from them. We learn and we grow. We adapt to the times. We understand situation. We review. We review. Yes, I agree with you on all those points. Reviewing and all. But then the problem I had was that just because I've learned, now I'm expecting you to know that I've learned it and to act to me in accordance with what I have learned. Which is, I still have, that person still has the expectation from me.
Exactly what I'm saying is, I mean, the fact that you've learned something, don't expect other people to have, and don't also force other people to have. Just for us to round up this show today, because it's becoming it's a very serious conversation, because it's always a very passionate thing when it comes to culture, dropping some things, and then people start to say maybe we're becoming too selective, but the truth is this: just be open-minded, be global enough, and whichever thing that fits you or suits you, just make sure you sort yourself out, but try as much as possible not to trash out other people's culture, because people are they're really passionate about their culture, and this is how people have grown up, but just as much as we're going to be critical, just be respectful as well. So please remember to like this video, share as well, subscribe as well, and drop your comment. We want to know how you've been able to thrive around the issues relating to cultural expectations, cultural beliefs, how you sort yourself out, especially when you find yourself in a very different environment and there are certain obligations in those environments. So how do you go around all of this culture? So we're definitely going to be seeing you on our next episode, and make sure you stay safe out there. See you.
Bye-bye.